Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine standing at a threshold, right? Knowing that whatever you decide to do next, the real power, the genuine satisfaction, maybe it doesn't come from just hoping for the best, but from actually throwing every single ounce of yourself into it. What if being truly committed, like uncomfortably all in, was the only way to really find out what's on the other side?
Yeah, and that whole idea of being full of yourself, maybe we've got it completely wrong.
Exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're not, juggling a bunch of studies or different opinions.
Oh.
Instead, we're zooming in, going deep into just one single powerful source. The transcript of motivational speech.
Right.
Specifically, we're digging into excerpts from a YouTube video. It's called UOITU in 2025 Best Motivational Speech, Matthew McConaughey. And it's from the Motiversity channel.
So it's really one person's perspective, honed by their own experiences, offering this distinct take on navigating life.
Yeah, one voice, one set of insights.
And our mission here, our goal for this deep dive, is pretty straightforward. We want to really explore the core messages coming out of this speech. What are the big ideas about commitment, about challenge, success, self-discovery?
Are there any surprising little nuggets in there, maybe turns of phrase that make you think differently?
Exactly. And importantly, what practical things, what resonant takeaways can you, listening right now, pull from this voice and maybe, apply to your own journey?
Think of us as your guides, kind of exploring this specific territory together. I'll be pointing out the stuff that grabs my attention, asking the what about this questions, just being curious.
And I'll try to help unpack the layers, maybe connect some dots between the different ideas he throws out, add a bit of context, and just articulate the deeper significance of what he's trying to say.
Okay, so we'll be hitting themes like the absolute value of commitment, really owning your path.
And that interesting idea of finding your direction by figuring out what you're not just chasing what you think you are.
Yeah, that one's intriguing. And also his unique angle on dealing with difficulty, how he defines and earns success.
And that whole transformative power of staying in process, chasing those goals that seem like they're always just a little bit out of reach.
Sounds like a really dense and hopefully rewarding journey packed into one person's viewpoint. Ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so right off the bat, this voice just grabs you with this intense focus on commitment. It's not a gentle suggestion, is it? It feels more like a command.
Oh, definitely. The phrase that really anchors it is, if you're going to do it, do it. Say what you can do it, do what you say.
It's like a fundamental rule book.
Yeah, it's presented almost like a code of conduct, you know? And it's not just about promises you make to other people. It's about your own internal integrity. Yeah. It starts with being honest with yourself. Say what you can do. Can you actually deliver? And then it's about rigorously following through on that do what you say. That seems to be the foundation of reliability for him.
Both yourself and, to the world. And the alternative, he really paints it as almost like a moral failing, or at least something that leads to deep dissatisfaction. He talks about half-assing something.
You can really hear the disdain, can't you? That lack of full engagement.
Totally. But he does give some crucial advice before you jump in.
Right, that's key. He warns, don't over-leverage yourself or the decision. So that initial phase, that is the time for thinking, for weighing the costs, the potential outcomes, asking yourself, do I have the resources? Do I really want this?
Do that homework before you commit.
Exactly. But once you make that call, once you say yes, then everything changes. The way you participate has to shift completely.
The thinking phase is done. It's not about cautiously, dipping a toe anymore.
No.
It becomes this full-on action. When it's time to go, you must dive, finish it, find out, come out the other side. It's like a powerful image, isn't it? Like complete immersion, just pushing through until you get closure.
And he's very clear about why this full commitment matters so much. The consequence of half-assing it is that awful, lingering uncertainty. He actually says that feeling keeps me up at night.
Ugh, that hits home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think we've all felt that sort of low-grade anxiety or regret, knowing you didn't give something your absolute all. You're just left wondering, what if?
Exactly. He spells it out so plainly. When you half-ass something, you just don't know whether you failed or succeeded, got what you want or didn't get what you want. There's no clear answer, no solid data point.
You're just stuck.
Yeah, stuck in this ambiguity, which for him seems way worse than actually knowing you failed after giving it your best shot.
So the real value here isn't just hitting the target. It's about getting clarity, about the outcome, whatever it turns out to be.
Precisely. He describes that feeling so vividly, getting to the end and finding out and looking in the mirror and going, I didn't have HD. I went all the way I found out, and that ain't for me.
That's not really failure then.
Not in the usual sense, no. It's more like a successful investigation. You committed fully, you gathered the data through direct experience, and now you know this path isn't right for you. That knowledge, earned the hard way, is incredibly valuable.
And then there's the flip side, that equally powerful feeling of, I found out, and you're damn right that is for me.
Yeah, that sense of alignment, knowing you're exactly where you should be, doing what you should be doing, it's so satisfying. And crucially, it's earned. He calls this state of clarity, this place you reach after going all in, a great place to get to.
It cuts out the guesswork, the regret.
Right. You're left with either acceptance, okay, that wasn't it, or this deep affirmation, yes, this is it.
And this whole idea of full engagement, it leads right into another point that sounds, well, a bit challenging at first. This notion of being full of yourself.
Yes, but in a good way, he argues.
Right, in a self-respecting way.
Yeah.
He notices this common thing.
Yeah.
A lot of us are running around half-assing ourselves, half-following ourselves. He sees it as a lack of sufficient self-focus, not arrogance, but fundamental self-care.
Yeah, self-awareness, maybe. He details how we do this. Not full of ourselves, not studying ourselves enough, not holding ourselves to task enough. It's like we're neglecting the relationship with our own inner world, our thoughts, actions, progress.
We don't give ourselves enough attention, basically.
And he points out this imbalance in how we treat ourselves compared to others. He mentions how we're quick to, happily bestow this sort of gentle, reassuring pat on the shoulder when somebody succeeds or falls short when they tried their best. We're pretty gracious with other people.
Yeah, we cut them some slack.
But when it comes to ourselves, even given the fact that you tried your best, you give yourself a kick on the way out of the door and a harsh word to follow you.
Oof. That tendency towards harsh self-criticism, even when we genuinely tried our best, we're definitely harder on ourselves.
And this is where he drops that really memorable line. Apparently, someone told him, Matthew, you're so full of yourself. And his immediate thought, which he said felt so right, he wrote it down, was, well, who else am I supposed to be full of?
Wow. That totally reframes it, doesn't it? It's not about being narcissistic or bragging.
No, it's about healthy self-possession. Like, if you're not paying attention to your own efforts, your progress, your accountability, who else is gonna? You're the main character in your own story.
You have to be invested in yourself.
Exactly. It's a call for action, for self-acknowledgement and accountability. He pushes you to look in the mirror and own that thing that we pulled off and go, good job! That's what you want, it's what you got. Celebrate your wins internally. Validate your own hard work.
That's the pat on the back we often forget.
Right. But it's got to be balanced. He also stresses the need to look in the mirror when we fail and go, boogie, got to pull that off.
So own the failures too.
Yeah, but not endlessly beating yourself up. It's more about acknowledging when you didn't meet your own standards, especially when you knew better, taking responsibility for the missteps just as much as the successes.
And that responsibility for mistakes leads into his thoughts on, well, how to move forward after you stumble. He talks about needing to give others and yourself more credit.
There's that balance again. Acknowledge the good, be realistic about the bad for everyone involved, including you. Then he throws in this dose of philosophical realism. He calls life an ironic tragedy and just states flat out, life is pain.
Yeah, that's pretty stark, especially in a motivational context. But maybe it sets the stage for what comes next.
I think so. It acknowledges the baseline difficulty, the inherent suffering, and then comes this line that's just incredibly introspective and powerful. I'm the reason that I stepped in.
Whoa. Taking full accountability for ending up in a tough spot, even if outside stuff played a role.
It's about seeing your own agency in the chain of events, right? Even if bad luck hit you or someone wronged you, your choices, your reactions, your path, they somehow led you to that specific ditch. But then he immediately flips it. He says, the reason that I stepped in is also an asset.
How can that be an asset? The thing that got you into trouble is also your strength. How does that work?
Because if you are the reason you're in the mess, then guess what? You hold the key to getting out. You're not just a passive victim floating down the river of circumstance. You have agency.
Ah, okay. If you steered into it, you can steer out of it.
Exactly. He knows we're going to make mistakes. That's just part of the deal. But the crucial part is what you do after. You got to own them, then you got to make amends, and then you got to move on. A clear 3-step plan. Own it fully. Fix what you can. Make it right with others if needed. and then let it go and keep moving.
And he gives this really potent warning about what happens if you don't follow that process.
Yeah.
Guilt and regret kills many a man before their time. Just sitting there, stewing in self-blame or wishing you could rewind. It's destructive.
So the overall message is really about empowerment, even when things hurt or you've messed up. So turn the page, get off the ride. You are the author of the book of your life. Right. You have the pen. You get to write the next chapter, free from the weight of the previous ones. As long as you've done the work of owning them and making amends, this whole first section really builds this strong foundation. Commit fully, be responsible, engage with your life, warts and all.
Okay, so you're committed, you're owning it. How does he suggest we actually navigate the path forward? He has some really interesting, maybe even paradoxical ideas about understanding where we're going, often by looking backward.
Yeah, he starts with that fundamental paradox. Life has to be lived forward, but only makes sense in reverse.
That's a classic idea, right?
Yeah.
Kierkegaard and all that. But the way he frames it feels very personal and practical. He emphasizes how looking back, we can all connect every single dot. It's mathematical, scientific, how we got to this table right here. It's all connected if we go back and look at it.
Hindsight really does create this illusion of coherence, doesn't it? You trace your steps back, and every weird decision, every chance meeting, every unexpected problem, it all seems to slot perfectly into this narrative leading right here. Feels logical, almost like it had to happen that way.
But that clarity just vanishes when you look ahead. He draws such a stark contrast with the future view. What you're leaning into is that mystery going forward.
Totally unknown. You can plan, you can have goals, sure, but how it actually plays out, that's the mystery. You don't see the subtle connections, the unintended results, the lucky breaks, the roadblocks, until you've lived through them and can look back.
And he touches on how looking back often shows us that things we thought were endings were really just transitions. Like, I thought that was it was the end, but it was the beginning of this thing.
Yeah, what feels like slamming a door shut in the moment often just opens up some weird, unexpected hallway you didn't even know was there, but you only see that looking back.
He does offer a bit of practical leverage for facing that forward mystery, even if you're totally lost about where you want to go. He says, I don't know what I do want, but I do know I don't want that.
Knowing what you want is surprisingly hard sometimes, but knowing what you don't want, what feels draining, what clashes with your values, what just feels wrong. That clarity may be gained from a bad experience or just gut feeling. That's a powerful starting point.
It gives you a direction by elimination, basically.
Yeah, it tells you where not to step. And this connects directly to maybe his most practical tip for finding direction, especially with that huge, scary question, who are you? He admits how hard that is, says he even tries not to ask his kids that directly anymore.
Because how do you even answer that? It's overwhelming.
Right. Identity isn't usually something you just find fully formed, something you discover and actively build through living.
He brings in that Bob Dylan line, we're all just what we create ourselves to be, and says he finds that idea relaxing.
Takes the pressure off, doesn't it? You don't have to unearth some hidden true self. It's more about the active process of creating yourself through choices and actions. You become who you are.
But then he gives the really actionable advice, the core insight here. It's so much easier to figure out who you're not.
This is the inverse approach, but man, it seems effective. Instead of trying to build this positive definition from scratch, you identify and subtract the things that just aren't you, the things that don't fit. He says, if you start eliminating the who I'm not by sheer mathematics, you end up moving toward more of what feeds you and who you are.
Like chipping away everything that isn't the statue. By removing the junk, the distractions, the things that feel wrong, you start to reveal more of what's genuinely you underneath it all.
And he puts it in such down-to-earth terms. He says, it's a hell of a lot easier thing to go, how can I get rid of some bullshit in my life, than it is to go, well, how do I go to my true self?
Yeah, that feels much more manageable.
Totally. Getting rid of toxic people, bad habits, draining commitments, those are concrete things you can actually do. And each one moves you incrementally closer to a more authentic place without needing some grand, abstract self-definition first.
So navigating the path isn't just about direction, it's also about the method of travel. He pushes back a bit against the constant hustle harder mantra sometimes. He notes that sometimes hard work and the endurance and the elbow grease the work harder. Hustle is not the way out.
Yeah, he recognizes that just relentlessly pushing isn't always the smartest move, especially if you're really stuck or hitting a wall. Sometimes that energy just isn't productive.
He describes these alternative strategies that sound much more intuitive. Like sometimes it's, I need to back up, laugh, have a sip of my favorite whatever, and dance my way through the raindrops out of this soup.
It's about shifting your relationship to the problem, right? Getting some perspective, finding a bit of lightness, or maybe just pausing long enough for a different idea to surface. It calls for a different kind of intelligence than just brute force.
And this way of thinking extends to finding value inside the tough times. He talks about this really profound practice of even looking at the things that are bad and going, oh, thank you, appreciate that.
Whoa, that's the alchemizing bad times into good ones he talks about. It's not about enjoying pain, obviously. It's a deliberate reframing.
How so?
Well, difficulties are often where the real learning happens, right? Where you build resilience, where you get redirected onto maybe a better path. Can you find the lesson hidden in the hardship, the unexpected opportunity, the strength you didn't realize you had? That's the alchemy.
He's pretty honest about the struggle involved, though. He describes that internal conflict, intellectually knowing this shall pass, while simultaneously feeling the raw pain like, I'm in the debit section. This sucks.
Yeah, there's that tension between the rational brain trying to manage it and the gut just feeling the hit.
And his ability to navigate that seems to come from what he calls his undeniable optimism and faith that this isn't all it is, like a core belief that even when things are terrible, the story isn't finished yet.
Yeah, a fundamental faith that there's something more, something better beyond the current struggle. It provides buoyancy.
And then there's that so what mentality he uses.
Yeah.
If it is, oh, so what? That's okay, well then really so what? Minimizes, not to make a bigger deal out of things that other people make a bigger deal of dramas.
It's like a perspective tool, isn't it? Asking so what can help you sort the real crises from the minor annoyances or the dramas other people create. It helps you save your energy for what actually matters.
Because you're getting sucked into unnecessary stress.
Exactly. But, and this is really important, he balances this by admitting that when things are genuinely tough, he feels it deeply. I get the blues, I get sad, I get mad, I'm a shit to be around, I can't get to sleep. I got demons in my own head trying to work. Why did this happen?
So it's not about pretending bad things don't hurt.
Not at all. It's about acknowledging the real, messy, difficult emotions that come with pain and struggle. He feels it, he wrestles with it, he actively tries to figure it out, trying to work the riddle out. Why did this happen?
And he admits his first reaction often is self-blame. What'd you do wrong to lead to this?
That immediate internal scan looking for his own role in the negative outcome. It loops back to that responsibility theme, doesn't it? But here, it feels like an initial, almost gut reaction to things going wrong. This whole section gives us this really rich toolkit for navigating the unknown, understanding the past differently, clearing out what doesn't belong, and approaching hardship with resilience and varied tactics.
Okay, so building on that navigation toolkit, he then pivots to success itself. How do we find it, earn it, and maybe crucially, how do we sustain it? And he has this really interesting approach suggesting we should analyze success just as much as we analyze failure.
Right. It's standard advice that every man knows reflection and introspection when he's at his lowest. Failure practically forces you to look inward, figure out what went wrong, learn the lesson.
Yeah, you have to dissect the crash.
But he points out we rarely do the same when things are going well. He says, when things are going well, maybe worth deconstructing that. Why did things go right? What were the specific ingredients?
It's about trying to, as he puts it, bottle some science here to why things are going well. Like reverse engineer your own success. What was your routine, your mindset, the people you were around?
Exactly. And when he actually did this, looked back at times when things were really clicking for him, he found these consistencies. Things like you were appreciating more, you were pointing out beautiful things and not taking them for granted.
Simple stuff, almost.
Sometimes, yeah. But he realized these good times weren't just luck. They were not by accident. They were linked to specific behaviors and attitudes, whether he was conscious of them at the time or not.
And the key takeaway is to notice and actually note these consistencies.
Why?
So you have a personal blueprint. When you feel yourself slipping or getting off track, you can look back at that list and go, yeah, you've been slacking on some of those.
It's like building your own personal How to Succeed manual based on your own lived experience. And he encourages celebrating those good times along the way. Let's cheers, the tears on the way for all the things that are work for when we have going right, but always with that realistic outlook.
Yeah, the other shoe is going to drop eventually.
Right. Knowing that it's not forever, that we will have a mountain to climb here shortly. Always anticipating the next challenge.
Which leads perfectly into his idea of actively seeking out hard things. Why go after roles that scare you? Why pursue things that have a real cost?
His answer is tied directly to value. Because it cost me something, because it comes with a price.
The difficulty, the fear, the sheer effort, that's the price tag. And paying that price is what gives the achievement its weight, its meaning. If it comes easy, it doesn't feel as significant.
And he defines real risk in this context, too. It's not really a risk unless you can lose the fight. If success is basically guaranteed, there's no tension, no real skin in the game, and so the reward feels thinner.
And what's the internal payoff for choosing these harder paths? He says, I feel more alive in them. I have an experience in the making of them. I'm nervous every day I come to work.
The challenge itself wakes you up, puts you in this state of heightened awareness, full engagement. The process of wrestling with the difficulty, that's where the aliveness is, where the real experience happens. And he pulls no punches about life itself. Life is not easy. Yeah. It is not, don't try to make it that way. Life's not fair. It never was. It isn't now, and it won't ever be.
That's a bracing shot of reality, isn't it?
It really is. But he presents it not to discourage you, but actually to protect you from what he calls the entitlement trap of feeling like you're a victim.
Ah, okay. If you expect fairness and ease, you're just setting yourself up to feel wronged all the time.
Exactly. Because life isn't consistently fair or easy. So his advice is blunt, almost harsh. You are not get over it and get on with it.
It's tough love, definitely. But the underlying message is about taking back control, right? Pushing you out of that passive victim mode.
Back into being an active agent in your own life. And that agency, that effort, is where the real reward comes from. Yes, most things are more rewarding when you break a sweat to get them.
There's just a different feeling, isn't there, when you achieve something you genuinely worked hard for. He describes that satisfaction of when I nail a day and I knock it, and I know I did.
Yeah, that deep internal knowing, that self-validation that comes from putting in the focus, the effort, the execution. He says, that gives me gratification, that makes me feel, gives me significance, that gives me confidence. Earning it builds your internal reserves.
And choosing to be brave, facing down those challenges, it builds you up. So be brave, have courage, and when you do, you get stronger, you get more aware, you get more respectful of yourself and that which you fear. You literally grow by confronting what scares you.
He uses that analogy of the opponent in a fight. Maybe they're bigger, faster, stronger on paper, but they don't know your heart, that inner drive, that intangible willpower. Right. That's often the X factor. It reinforces that your internal commitment is a massive asset.
This connects to another key point he makes about discernment and choice. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Right. Just because you can, come on, it's not a good enough reason. Having the ability isn't the same as having a purpose for using it.
It needs intention behind it. You have to be discerning. Choose it because you want it. Do it because you want to. The drive, the decision has to come from inside you. It's ultimately on you.
You own the why just as much as the what's. And making that intentional choice reinforces the whole value of earning things. We remember the stuff we earn, the stuff we experience more than what the teacher tells us or what someone gives us for free.
Knowledge or rewards that just land in your lap don't stick the same way, do they?
Not really. When we broke a proverbial sweat on it, whether it was mental or physical or whatever, we built it. We understand. We thought how we got it, how we achieved it, how we got what we wanted. Those stick with us. It gets wired in differently because you live the process of getting there.
And that earned understanding, that's what build resilience, and they build a healthy, true optimism going forward. Knowing you've done it before, knowing you earned it, gives you this grounded confidence that you can do it again, even when new challenges pop up.
He also touches on delayed gratification here. Oh, there are choices I can make today for myself that will pay me back later in life.
Mm-hmm.
That discipline of choosing long-term benefit over immediate comfort, that's crucial for building anything meaningful.
He tells that story about his friends, right?
Yeah.
Who got laid off and wouldn't take a lower paying job they actually liked.
Yeah, because they were stuck on getting back to their old salary level. They ended up waiting stuck for like a decade because they were fixated on that external marker, the salary, instead of the internal value, doing work they enjoyed, gaining experience.
Ouch. That's a long time to be stuck.
It is. And his conclusion from that kind of situation is really powerful. Sometimes it's not even about what choice we make. Just make a choice and commit to it and go and dive in.
So action, even if it's not the perfect action, but done with full commitment, is often better than just waiting and doing nothing.
That seems to be the message. Make a call, then throw yourself into it. And this deep commitment to the doing, to the process itself, leads into what might be his most central idea, the in-process mindset and Immortal Finish Lines.
Okay, explain that. He envisions this state where you make it a place where we break a sweat, where we believe, where we enjoy the process of succeeding. So the joy is in the struggle, the effort, not just crossing some line.
Exactly. When you're truly in process, you're intensely focused on the present action, on the task at hand. You're too busy doing what we're good at, voluntarily keeping our own counsel. Your drive is internal, focused on your own execution, your own standards, not looking over your shoulder for approval or fixating on the future prize.
And this is where that paradoxical phrase comes in, immortal finish lines. What does that even mean?
It's such a brilliant twist, isn't it? A finish line usually means the end, completion, but an immortal finish line, that suggests a goal that exists not to be finally reached and ticked off, but to provide constant direction and motivation. It's like a horizon. It keeps receding as you move towards it.
Ah, okay. So you're always traveling towards immortal finish lines. We write our own book, Overcoming Our Fears, We Make Friends with Ourselves. The goals are about ongoing things like growth, self-mastery, acceptance, things that you can never truly finish.
Exactly. They are processes, not destinations. And the level of engagement required for this kind of pursuit is total. From the soles of your feet, with every ounce of blood you've got in your body, lay it on the line until the final whistle blows. You give everything you have, continuously.
And he claims if you live like that, committed to the process, chasing these never-ending goals, we cannot not lose.
That double negative again, meaning you have to win. But the win isn't necessarily checking off the goal. The win is the striving, the commitment, the growth, the journey itself. You can't actually fail if the whole point is the effort in the process.
This reminds me so much of that famous story he tells about his hero.
Oh yeah, it's the perfect illustration of an immortal finish line in action. Remember, when he was young, maybe 25, someone asks him, "Who's your hero?" And after thinking, he says, "I said me in 10 years.
Right. And then 10 years later, same question.
Same answer. He's 35, and he says his hero is me at 35. The interviewer points out the repetition, and that's when the penny drops for him. My hero is always 10 years away.
He gets it. He realizes and accepts, I'm never going to be my hero. I'm not going to attain that. I know I'm not, and that's just fine with me.
Because that slightly out of reach, always advancing future version of himself is the fuel. It keeps me with somebody to keep on chasing. It's a perpetual motion machine for motivation.
And he makes it clear this isn't just some personal quirk. He applies it to everyone. Whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, that ideal, that goal just beyond your grasp is what keeps you moving forward.
It's the engine driving the whole in-process life. And he punctuates all this with those signature phrases, "Amen. All right, all right, all right. Just keep living, huh?" They feel less like catchphrases and more like genuine, grounded acknowledgments of the ongoing journey. And this in-process focus, he argues, is also the key to not choking under pressure.
Choking. That awful moment when the outcome feels too big and you just seize up, fumbling at the goal line, had a brain freeze, forgot the punchline.
He nails that feeling, doesn't he? The moment gets bigger than us. He even describes it like an outer body experience where we are literally seeing ourselves in the third person, just watching yourself fail.
So what does he say causes that? Why do we choke?
He blames self-imposed limitations. We have created a fictitious ceiling, a roof to our expectations of ourselves, a limit where we think it's all too good to be true.
We sabotage ourselves, basically.
Yeah, often because deep down we might not believe we actually deserve the success that's right there, or we haven't fully owned that we've earned the opportunity. We think it's not our right to say or believe it is, or that maybe we don't deserve or haven't earned these gifts. We create these restrictions on ourselves, these artificial caps, based on insecurity or old beliefs.
So we choke because we put a lid on our own potential. Wow.
Exactly. And the antidote. The way to avoid choking. Stay and process all right within ourselves in the joy of the doing.
How does focusing on the process stop you from choking? What's the mechanism?
He explains it's because we aren't thinking of the finish line, because we're not looking at the clock, we're not watching ourselves on the Jumbotron. When you are completely absorbed in the action, in executing the task right now, in the feeling of doing it, you're not distracted by the what-ifs of the outcome, the time pressure, or how others might be judging you. Your focus stays internal on the quality of your own effort.
That's such a powerful idea. The approach is the destination.
The value, the meaning, the reward, it's all found in the journey and the effort in this present moment of striving. And if that's true, then we are never finished. He uses that sniper analogy. You don't aim at the target, you aim on the other side of the target.
Aim beyond it.
Right. Your destinations are beyond the measurement. Your reach has to continually exceeds our grasp. Keep stretching.
So with these immortal finish lines and staying in process, the race is never over. The journey has no bad. Port, the adventure never ends because we are always on the way.
The real juice, the meaning is in that perpetual motion, the constant becoming. And there's this really cool side effect of being so locked into your own process, chasing your own immortal goals. You stop desperately needing validation from outside. He says, let somebody else come up and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you schooler, let them come, tell you can go home now. Let them say, I love you too. Let them say thank you.
You earn the recognition, maybe, but you're not chasing it.
Yeah.
You're already fulfilled by the doing itself. If praise comes, great, but you don't need it to keep going.
Exactly. Let it come to you. Just keep doing the work. His final piece of advice here ties it all together beautifully. Take the lead off the man-made roofs that we put above ourselves and always play like an underdog. Get rid of your self-imposed limits and always keep that hungry, striving mindset no matter how successful you become.
This deep dive into process and those unachievable goals seems to lead naturally into his final thoughts on freedom and this constant pursuit.
Yeah, he makes this really interesting connection between the responsibility of freedom and the freedom in responsibility.
Which sounds like another paradox. Freedom comes from responsibility.
That's his argument. It's not about pure license, just doing whatever feels good right now. He argues that life is more than just straight Saturdays with as much cake as you want to eat. That kind of unchecked indulgence, it won't last that long. It's shallow, lacks foundation.
So real sustainable freedom isn't just the absence of rules.
No, he suggests it's built on a foundation of responsibility. And he defines what that responsibility looks like. It's appreciation of a past. It's building of a lineage. It's investing in ourselves. It's investing in something we started to build yesterday that we want to take into tomorrow.
So it's about honoring where you came from, taking care of what you're building now, and actively shaping your future.
Exactly. He says, to actually have true freedom, we have to be more responsible for certain things for ourselves. It's through things like discipline, self-care, commitment, follow through those responsible actions that you actually create the space and the capacity for genuine freedom to exist and flourish. You build your agency through responsibility.
That makes sense. You earn your freedom through how you manage yourself and your commitments.
And pursuing this kind of freedom, this kind of life, requires constantly investigating and interrogating our better selves. It's this ongoing process of self-reflection, refinement, always trying to be a little bit better at this tomorrow.
Which brings us back to the idea that there's no ta-da moment. No final arrival point where you can just dust off your hands and say, done.
Right. Knowing that we never land, there's no pada moment.
Even though we're all, as he says, so result-oriented.
Yeah, society pushes that, and maybe our brains are wired for it. But the deeper reality, in his view, is there's no ultimate finish line where you get to stop. We're always chasing it.
And the key, the real insight, is to actually get okay with that. To accept this perpetual state of striving, to get comfortable and understand and laugh at and be ready to work hard at the fact that we're all just achieving our way to the unachievable.
That's the human condition, isn't it, according to him? This constant, maybe slightly absurd effort towards an ideal that you can never fully grasp. But he doesn't see it as depressing. He finds real beauty and deep satisfaction in that very struggle. His final thought sums it up perfectly. And that's as good as it gets, and that's pretty damn awesome.
The striving is the reward.
That's the core of it.
Yeah.
The value is in the process itself.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive into just one voice, one perspective, has really taken us through a whole philosophy for living life fully engaged. We kicked off with that absolute demand for full commitment, right? And the clarity that comes from seeing things all the way through, not that awful regret of half-assing.
Mm-hmm. And we explored that challenging but liberating idea that being full of yourself in that healthy, accountable way is actually vital for self-respect and moving forward.
Then we looked at how he suggests navigating the path, understanding the past by looking back, facing the future's mystery, and, crucially, finding direction by eliminating what you are not, which feels so much more doable sometimes.
Yeah, and we discussed finding different ways through tough times, not just brute force hustle, but also perspective shifts, and that practice of alchemizing bad experiences, finding the value within them.
We spend time on his unique take on success, the importance of analyzing why things go right, not just wrong, and the deep value in seeking out challenges that cost you something, the satisfaction that comes from truly earning your achievements through real effort.
And finally, we really unpack those core concepts of the in-process mindset and those immortal finish lines. Understanding that the real goal is the continuous journey, the constant striving towards something just beyond reach. We saw how that focus prevents choking, and how true, lasting freedom is actually built on a foundation of responsibility.
It's definitely a perspective that gives you a lot to think about, a lot to chew on. We've covered so much ground from the single source. Based on everything we've explored here, maybe a couple final thoughts for you, the listener, to take away and ponder. First, thinking about his point on needing to give yourself credit, but also crack your own whip. How could you maybe create a simple personal practice, just this week, to consciously acknowledge one small win you achieved and hold yourself gently accountable for one specific misstep, just to start fostering that balance of healthy self-possession he talks about?
Or, alternatively, thinking about achieving your way to the unachievable and that idea of your hero always being 10 years away. Could you identify just one small, concrete step you could take today? Even if it feels tiny, something that just moves you in the general direction of that ideal future self, trusting, as he suggests, that the real value is found in the movement itself, in being on the way.
Yeah, powerful questions coming straight from the heart of this unique perspective. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of a motivational voice.